I wasn't sure you were coming today.
The what?
I didn't know if you were coming.
Ah, yes.
Today. So, how are things going with your paper, your thesis?
Did you read it?
No.
Oh, I changed it since Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So I read, not your paper, but I read
The thesis.
the thesis, the topic, the research problem. So let's take a look. Okay. Do you have some research questions?
Yes. Can you go to my Google?
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna change one question. I'm gonna move two because I'm gonna explain you. This is the order I'm gonna write.
Do you have your research questions?
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. You can move these research questions here down at the end.
Before the method?
Yeah, right. Just before the method.
Okay.
So
just two things.
Okay.
I think, first read.
All right. So how teachers are promoting cognitive strategies for students to improve reading comprehension. So, how
are teachers promoting that?
Yeah, I would say how do teachers, like you have here, how do teachers promote cognitive strategies for students? Now, okay. The first two questions seem a little different. I mean, one is how teachers are promoting cognitive strategies, and then you have how do teachers assess the reading skill, or the reading skill.
Reading comprehension, because reading skill is like general, right?
Well, okay, let's look first at your first research question. What type of cognitive strategies?
Okay, I have found some in primary research. It can be summarizing, questioning, predicting, or I think now let me check this. Well, this four can be the cognitive strategy the teacher can focus. Summarizing, visualizing, questioning, making inference, and predicting could be some of the cognitive strategies.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. Now the second question, how do teachers assess the reading skill? To me, these two seem like two
different things.
Yeah. Have you found research that is similar to this?
Well, I would like that you read that. Okay, this is one of the primary research.
All right. So practices and perceptions.
But I think these three aspects are linked, rather.
Yeah.
Reading assessment, reciprocal teaching, and cognitive strategies.
Such cognitive strategies are part of the school. considered literature and how to... Because here it says that they're looking at the practices of teachers and their confidence, the teacher's confidence in the assessment of the children's reading comprehension strategies, not necessarily measuring the assessment, whether they learn or comprehend. It's more what the teachers, how confident the teachers feel about assessments, which is a little bit different. Let's look at the research questions. Okay, I don't see any research questions here, but you could use this kind of as a basis for research. Okay, so this last sentence here is really the focus, and I would try to come up with research questions based on this. The emphasis is on the participating teachers' perceptions and self-reported practices in the assessment. Now, self-reported practices, you're going to ask, this might be modified for you because you want to try to observe these practices. So it wouldn't be self-reported. It's more really trying to find teachers who are implementing certain techniques currently for reading comprehension and that you observe them. So it wouldn't be self-reported, but it might be participating teachers' perceptions and how they apply their practice to reading comprehension. Now, or look into assessment of RCCS. Do you know what RCCS is?
Reading comprehension cognitive strategies.
Okay. All right. So reading comprehension. All right. So it would be teaching perceptions and practices with regard to assessment of RCCS.
Okay,
or reading.
so I focus on the 4 strategies that I mentioned to you before.
So maybe you have one question
Okay.
about teacher perceptions,
Mhm.
and another question about practices,
Okay.
but about assessment of our RCCS,
Okay. So I have to change them.
and then I'm wondering if we need to focus on students. Probably not. Just focus on the teachers' perceptions and their practice, and then you might choose 2 to 3 or 4 teachers
to observe.
to observe, interview,
Okay.
and get as much information about how they practice. How they
Practice
actually
and assess them.
and how they perceive it, like
Okay.
how they. Right, so you'll be asking questions about what they're actually doing in class, and trying to understand these perceptions around the assessment of RCCS. Okay, so I would modify your questions. Oops, sorry. Modify your questions to reflect these two:
I wanna focus
perceptions
on-
and practices.
Yes, okay, perceptions and practice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm not. I don't. At this point, I don't know if it's necessary.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
So.
want to remove those 2 questions.
Yeah, so we can just focus on the teachers
I
now.
thought in ask a question related to cognitive strategies instead of those 2 questions, because feedback.
Well, feedback will be kind of related. I
Okay.
mean, how they assess is in a way feedback. So
Okay.
it's kind of, let's just call it practice and
Perception.
assessment. But you might talk about feedback in your literature review
Mhm.
that relates to assessment.
A brief.
Yeah, because there's some overlap there in terminology.
I would like to show you another
Mhm.
primary research about reciprocal teaching in regular primary school classroom. I think in this primary research also talks about the 4.
Yeah, it talks about overt instruction, summarizing, self-question,
Okay.
clarifying. So yeah, I mean this
They
is
are the same, right?
well,
Similar.
it might be similar. You have to
Okay.
compare and contrast, but it's related. So yeah, this is what you want to, and then later you'll decide what you want to call these. What are you going to observe?
Okay.
Self-questioning, summarizing, or the other terminology from the other article. You have to come up with your own terminology. But yeah, this
I
is
think
also
there are
good.
research questions in there.
Now this is more of a qualitative, a quantitative research, but it still may. They may not have research questions. They may have a hypothesis, but yeah, they're doing inferential statistics. But take a look at this. I don't see research questions, but yeah, you may or may not. This may or may not apply this method because they're looking at a specific test. and looking at reading comprehension. But some of the theory might relate, and there still might be some useful information for your research. So go ahead and modify your research questions there.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. So you have reciprocal teaching. You probably want to talk about reading comprehension first, no?
Okay. Yes, the order. I think it's a little bit.
Probably reading comprehension and then cognitive. Well, reading comprehension or RCCS.
Okay.
So reading comprehension case?
Cognitive strategies.
So maybe talk about what those are, RCCS. Because maybe cognitive strategies is part of that, no?
Okay. So first, reading comprehension assessment. Then cognitive strategies.
Well, I don't know. What's the difference?
Reading comprehension assessment. Because I want to focus on cognitive strategies.
Well, I don't know. Because reciprocal teaching is more of a practical application. So
but I have to talk about as well in the later review.
Well, I guess now you don't have reciprocal teaching in your research questions. Are you focusing on reciprocal teaching specifically, or?
Because in the thesis statement I mentioned the reciprocal teaching.
Well, then you probably need to mention reciprocal teaching some
But
way.
what about to make questions related to the three main topics, the reciprocal teaching?
Okay, so reciprocal teaching, do you think teachers are doing reciprocal teaching? Because you have to think about who you're going to observe.
That's what I want to.
Or if you can find a teacher or some teachers to do an intervention, but that's that has its challenges too.
Yeah.
Or if you just focus on RCCS, you need to think of some other categories, some other subtopics to include. Maybe these strategies. Can you categorize these strategies? Like, are there some that are cognitive? Are there some that are social? Are there some that require interaction, social interaction? Or I need to try to expand a little bit more what in your literature review. Yeah, we just need a little bit more, I think. We have your RCCS, and you mentioned 4 or 5 strategies, but you need some other aspect, something more.
For example, you said interaction, or what did you say? Another aspect that I should include in the later review?
Well, social interaction. Because you're talking about cognitive strategies, but there might be a social element. You might talk about, because you're talking about feedback. So some of the feedback can come, I don't know if you want to talk about, feedback would be it can be from the teacher, it can be from the students. Now, if it comes from the students, there's an interactive piece, a social piece that you can talk about in your theory. Social, where the students are helping and working together, getting feedback from each other.
That could be an aspect to include.
A cognitive strategy would be more just the individual student applying a strategy, right? And then another aspect is feedback from the teacher, right? And how the teacher gives feedback. So that could also be another category, like the way the teacher provides feedback.
The feedback is going to be provided by the students to the teachers?
Well, the other way, the feedback from the teacher to the students. So, that's what you need to kind of figure out what different aspects of feedback or strategies that you want to discuss in your theory. And so right off the bat, some cognitive strategies is one category, social strategies is another. The types of feedback or the types of interaction that the teacher gives to the students. So what type of feedback is it? Is it implicit, explicit? Is it just you have to kind of look at to see what else you want to include in there as far as what the teacher provides as feedback. Because the strategies here you have here, how does the teacher promote these strategies? So one is the actual strategies, and you need to find ways that they can provide those strategies. They can be explicit or implicit. They can be social, how they interact between students. I think you just need to find more information about how you want to develop your argument, because the next thing we need to look at now is look at your modified research questions and look at the thesis statement. So what would be like the main thesis statement for your essay? We also need to look at that. But I think you're on the right track here. We need to see how you want to develop this. Now, if you see a relationship with reciprocal teaching and cognitive strategies, then that's fine. But try to organize this information in a logical fashion that is centered around the thesis statement. So one way you can organize this is the general to the specific, or the least important to the most important. It can also be chronological, as far as if one method was popular before another, you can give a sequential chronological order to this information, or it could be theoretical to the practical. Okay, so this is kind of but you what you don't want to do is mix these. For example, if you have reading comprehension assessment, if that talks about cognitive strategies,
because it's similar,
then this is going to fall under this, right? It has to be different. It has to be separate. So at this point, hold off on these subcategories that you have here, A, B, and C. Think of just 1, 2, and 3. If you have 3 sections, what are the 3 sections? And how are they different? And what's the order? Does that make sense, the order? And start from there. Then, if it looks like you need to have subsections, then we can look at that. But the first step are these 3 sections. And then once you have that, then start developing each section in a logical fashion. So I would go ahead and start making these changes. If you want me to look at it, send me an email on Canvas, and I'll take a look at your research questions here, which need to go at the bottom, your main headings, and add your thesis statement here.
Okay.
I'll look at those 3 things to see if it's all aligned.
But I'm gonna still be focusing on the same pieces, or
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
I think I can change all.
I'm sorry?
I can change all the thesis. I think that's what I want to research, to investigate.
Yeah, I mean, keep reading as much as you can and get information.
Okay, good ideas and to include in the.
Yeah, but I don't think we need to change your topic. I mean, if this is a topic you want to research, I just think we need to be a little bit more specific in these sections here. Okay, and choose your words to represent ideas or concepts that support your thesis statement, that obviously answers your 2 or 3 research questions.
Okay.
Because your entire literature review is to explain or answer your research questions. It's like, how did the experts answer the research questions? And then later you're going to provide your own answer.
Okay.
So I think you're on the right track. It's just maybe do just a little bit more reading, and just try to come up with these categories.
Look for more specific information about the.
And just kind of develop a very basic outline. 3 sections, right? Or 4 sections.
Okay.
Or maybe it's 2 sections and then you have subsections within each of those 2. Just depends on the information that you have, how you want to organize and subdivide the information. Okay?
Okay.
So go ahead and do that and send me an email before next week, as soon as you have it organized, so you can start writing, because you need to start writing. Because we have 2 weeks.
Tomorrow, I think so. Tomorrow I'm gonna send you an email.
Okay.
And you're gonna look and then start writing, because the time is gonna get.
We have 2 weeks. Yeah, we have 2 weeks. So.
It's enough time, but.
Now's the time.
I think I can.
Now's the time, and we can always go back and later and change the order, right? But now's the time to start writing. Make sure you continue reading as much as possible, but start drafting your literature review, so we can start looking at it next week or next tutoring session. I'll look to see what you have at that point, and make suggestions on the organization.
Okay.
Alrighty. So let's do that, and
the reflection is on Sunday, right?
And the reflections for Sunday. And you can do it anytime. You can do it today if you want, or you can do it any time during the week. You don't have to wait till Sunday.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm gonna change the order. I'm gonna look for more information, and I'm gonna send you an email.
Yeah.
To check.
But I think you've got an idea here. I see where you want to go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It just needs to right now. We need to focus more now on the organization of the literature.
Okay.
Alrighty. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good week.
You too, Ben.
Thank you.